Hello, everyone, and welcome to Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves. I'm your host, Ike. I am here with Laura. Say hello, Laura.
Hi. Hello.
Or not. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. This is my first podcast ever, so not really sure I've developed a personality or anything.
All right, well, we'll see if we can flush that out for you.
Sure.
So, first up, the old classic. What's your favorite dad joke?
Um, what do you call a grenade that has been tossed into a French kitchen?
I don't know.
Linoleum blown apart.
Go! What movie will you never skip when channel surfing?
Um, Anything where I see a sword. Lord of the Rings, Chronicles of Narnia. If Peter Pan.
So you're like a sheath, a sword, and you're in there.
Yeah, I'm devoted. Yep.
Growing up, did you have a favorite book?
I read a lot growing up. So
Is there any one that stands out in particular that you just remember loving or rereading in particular?
I mean, I hate to be cliche, but I did read Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Like 2 or 3. I read it when it was only available in Britain because my fourth grade teacher brought back
Wow.
the book.
So,
Yeah,
so you've got the super nerd status button.
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
read this book. I was like, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. This is the best book ever. It's about all these wizards, and it's this wizard world, and it's super cool. And everybody was like, that's weird," you know?
Everybody was just like, nerd!
Yeah, exactly. But I was, I was sold.
You were there for it.
I was
Yeah,
there,
that's,
yeah.
that's awesome. How did you end up hearing about that?
It was my fourth grade teacher. He was kind of Mr. Rice. He was into reading and would read to us after lunch every day. He introduced me to
That's
Roald
awesome.
Dahl and like James and the Giant Peach, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, all of those.
And he just got you ahead of the
Yeah.
he just got you ahead of the curve on Harry Potter. That's so rad.
Yeah.
If you had to give up sight or two of your other senses, which would you give up?
Sight being the one sense, or any.
Yeah, you can give
hair?
up sight or two of any other senses.
Oh, I think I'd go with sight. Honestly.
Wow. All right. We got our first sight giver upperer. Best piece of advice you ever got?
Sock liners.
Go on.
So my wife and I are really into long distance backpacking, and my first hike that I ever went on, I just destroyed my feet, like blisters on top of blisters on top of blisters, and did a lot of research into like how to cope with that, because I mean once your dogs are done, then like the rest of the hike is miserable. So somebody told me about sock liners.
Some angel.
Just a thin second sock that you put on, and we
Yeah.
tried it, and never a blister again.
That's awesome.
So-
That's good to know for any long distance walkers or hikers out there.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever knew about that until after I got blisters as well. And I just I didn't even get good sock liners. I just put on a second pair of socks, and it really does make a surprising amount of difference.
It's crazy.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which makes no sense, because it's like the socks you're wearing for hiking are like really thick.
Yeah.
It's like, these should take care of it. It's like, no, you need a little tiny one, bud.
Yeah, yeah.
You need just a little bit more. What's your favorite life story or moment in time that you like to tell at a party or when meeting somebody for the first time?
Like about my life?
Yeah.
that I like to share.
What's your what's your favorite anecdote to tell from your own existence?
I mean, I'll tell hiking stories all day long.
Was there one that stands out other than getting blisters upon blisters?
um, there, so we have a kind of a legend of the mystical bandana man that we like to talk about.
All right, I'm in.
So Bethany, my wife, and a colleague from school, the three of us were on one of these long distance trek at mile like 75 or so. And by that point, we had kind of figured out that we hike at different paces and we're happier to just kind of like hike at our own speed and then meet up eventually. So we get like this, we'll get like 10, 15-minute gaps in between each other, right? Like Stephanie is way out in front because she's an antelope. Bethany is somewhere in the middle, and then I'm bringing up the rear because I'm looking at flowers or whatever. And we all passed this guy in the woods, and all three of us remember that he was wearing a bandana and nothing else. And but
nothing else.
Nothing else.
Wow.
But also all three of us remember something completely different about the guy. Like Stephanie remembers that he was carrying a guitar. I have no memory of there being a guitar at all. I was really distracted by his shoes. Like, I thought, how uncomfortable. You're not even wearing socks. Like, there's no... What's going on? Bethany remembers that he was, like, wearing a tie. Whatever. It's just...
All right, hold on. Wait, I need to go back and clarify, because the mental image I'm getting is quite perverse. When you say he was wearing a bandana and nothing else, was he not wearing clothes, or was he wearing clothes?
Yeah, he was, like bandana loincloth. Essentially. And he had a backpack and nothing else.
Oh, okay. So he's got a backpack, bandana underwear.
Yeah.
And then in different versions, he's walking with a guitar.
Yep.
He's walking with shoes.
Yep.
Or he's walking with a tie. Like a necktie.
Like a necktie, yeah. And
wow, this is awesome.
Yeah. So either like we're delirious because we've been hiking for 75 miles, or this guy is legitimately pranking us and like ducking behind a tree and like
just got this really weird like backpack with a guitar, a tie, and shoes.
Yeah.
That's all he's got in his back. Yeah. I love the idea of him having shoes in his backpack.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like hot swapping. That's fantastic. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like the game of telephone, but in reality. That's terrific.
Yeah. The story is best when it's the three of us telling it together because of our memories being so different. But yeah. It's a good.
That's tremendous. Yeah. If you could guarantee one of your dreams would come true, which one would it be?
I would love to like travel to New Zealand. I don't know, that seems kind of I don't know if that's like really a dream.
I mean, if you've sat around wistfully looking at the sky and thought about it, that's a daydream and that counts.
Okay, yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that because I totally am. That's totally on my short list of things that I want to do at the end of my time on this blue ball.
Yeah.
So I totally get you.
Yeah, I mean, like I totally have dreams of like, world peace and like all those kinds of things. But
yeah, screw that. Let's go to New Zealand. That sounds way more.
Yeah.
Sounds way more fun. I'm assuming as a hiker that if you went to New Zealand, you would want to do the trek to Mount Doom.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, definitely.
I think it takes less time to do it in reality than it did even in the movies, which is hilarious to me. I think it's like, have you looked this up? I think it's like 2 or 3 hours or something like that.
Oh, I haven't
It's
looked it up, but that would not surprise me in the least.
yeah. I think it's real. I think it's really short. I don't think it's particularly long. It might be 8, but I know it's less than 9. Like I'm pretty darn sure. Mostly
Okay.
because New Zealand just like tip to tip is just not that big.
Right, right.
Um,
I mean, the one thing that does terrify me about, like, I want to go to New Zealand, hands down, but you hear about the murder bugs and like spiders that eat your face and stuff, and I'm like, yeah.
that's Australia.
Okay, not in New Zealand.
No,
They're so
they
close.
have. They are so close that there's a fair amount of ocean, but it's enough to keep the scary away. Now, one of the reasons I want to go to New Zealand is because there are no like predators in New Zealand.
Okay.
I don't know how, but like my understanding is that if you're in the backwoods, you're not going to really run into anything.
Okay.
Like there's nothing out there to like really mess you up. There might like you could. I mean, I think there's your like normal ramble of bugs and stuff, but nothing like terrifyingly huge or dangerous.
Not a.
Might need to do some more research on the plane when I get lucky enough to head there, but that's
Yeah,
my
for sure.
understanding.
For sure.
Yeah, it's nothing like Australia where I know the backwoods will just kill you. So glad they didn't shoot the Lord of the Rings there, because then I would be stuck with a true difficult decision to make.
It's true.
If you could work any of the jobs you've done over the course of your life, but get paid the same as the job where you made the most, which job would you work?
I would do outdoor education.
Say that again?
Any sort of outdoor education, like
Outdoor education.
yeah, like you've got these programs that do like science camp outdoors, and they take kids up to like ropes courses and do team building, or take kids on long hikes or backpacking and teach them leadership skills and things like that. But
You've done that before?
I've worked at summer camps and stuff, which are and kind of done the counseling thing, the volunteer counseling thing for science camp and
awesome.
Outward Bound and stuff. And I don't know that I can officially claim to have earned a paycheck for being an outdoor education teacher.
Yeah, this would be the best of both worlds. You'd actually get paid this time around.
Yes, absolutely.
That's really cool. Yeah, that does sound like the kind of combination of both your joys in life. That's fantastic.
Yeah, our current or the school where I teach right now, we send all of our 11th grade students on a 4-day backpacking trip through one of these kind of outdoor schools. And I get to be the chaperone every year, and it's incredible.
Oh, that sounds like tough work right there.
Oh, it's so rough.
You suffer for them, don't you?
I do. I mean, in a sense, though, teenagers are not typically ready for discomfort, and
no. Not only teenagers, plenty of the rest of human beings too.
That's fair.
So, what do you regret not having done or tried before you graduated high school?
I mean, I have regrets of not doing more study abroad stuff in college, but I don't know that high school Laura would have really appreciated any sort of foreign exchange or study abroad. Maybe. Could have been cool.
You wish you studied abroad in high school?
I think so.
Where did you study abroad in college?
I did a 3-week summer course in Israel in college.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is truly abroad.
Yeah. It was super rad. We did, I think the class was historical and geographical locations in the Bible or something.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you're bad at that you'd like to be better at?
Um, yes. I would like to be better at drawing, I think. Drawing and sketching.
Is that is that something that you actively try towards, or is it just like
I
your
doodle.
initial product? Yeah, you doodle.
I
The
doodle,
same.
but
Yeah.
I'm always like super impressed with like people who can actually art. um,
I wish I too could art.
yeah, yeah.
That's that education degree talking right there. Well, I'm sure it's just like you would say to like any of the kids in your class. I mean, it's one of those things that you got to put time towards. But
Right, right.
I kind of feel like I have the same kind of not block there of yeah you have to do more to get better, but it's like you feel so far behind compared to some of the other people that you see and some of the other products you see online. It's so like disheartening to like take the first step.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I
The
I
trap of
feel
like being compared to
that. Yeah,
other
I think it's
people.
like I think that's one of the biggest banes that the internet is kind of incidentally placed upon us is the kind of comparison to others, because we just the most of the products that we see put out are just people at their absolute best.
Oh yeah.
They've filmed this video 3 times, they've done it from different angles,
Hmm.
they've used stuff in After Effects or
Special lighting.
special lighting, whatever.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, they've trained for a long time, and so we're not seeing the lead up, we're only seeing the perfect finished product.
Right.
And it's kind
I
of like
would.
if I mean, the internet is kind of like a store, right? You go in and you're just seeing what people want you to see.
Hmm.
You're just seeing the finished product that is at its, peak troubleshot. You're not seeing like the 90 broken versions. And so it's really hard to separate and be like, yeah, I can get there.
Hmm. Well, and
Yeah.
even like people who um, create fail videos, even or like um, I end up following a lot of teacher TikToks and things that like deliberately make fun of the other perfect teacher that posted the perfect video, and even the critique and the commentary about the the perfect is
Hmm.
done well. Like there's just no winning,
Yeah.
you know?
That is definitely one of the hardest things to like kind of get out of your head. Or even if it's done super poorly, I notice myself when something is done excellent, you praise it for its excellence. And when something is done super poorly, inevitably, either through the comments or through my own just human nature, I end up kind of mocking it and being like, well, at least I'm better than that. And that like soothes my ego enough to the point that I don't pursue it further. There's no like middling ground of seeing somebody struggle and like, and seeing them and identifying and then using that as like a catalyst to move yourself forward. I
Right.
always find that it's either end of the spectrum and that it does a negative thing for the progression of our own skill in that area, which is just like infinitely annoying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that that's
Moving.
something that I really struggle with as like a teacher and an educator as well, is like convincing students that
Oh yeah,
they aren't perfect. That's why they are in my classroom. They don't know everything, and
that
that's
is
okay.
definitely yeah. That is one of the hardest things, and I feel so sorry for generations that came after us because we're about the same age. We're like within a couple of years of each other, I think,
Yeah.
and we grew up with the internet slowly coming to phase and like but not in its final form now, and so we got to kind of grow up, make mistakes. We weren't recording them yet, we weren't seeing
Mm-hmm.
what other people were doing, and so we didn't I mean, I still compared myself to plenty of other people and messed myself over mentally for years to come, but it wasn't as readily available and as easy. So I guess I overachieved in that regard.
Yeah.
But so many people now are just, how can they not? They see perfection on Instagram. They see
Right.
perfection on YouTube. Like there's no seeing somebody who's mediocre anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't go, there's so much of our exposure, especially as kids and even as adults, so much of our exposure to other human beings is just online.
Yeah.
And so you're always just seeing the best online and then, being like, man, I suck. It's like, no, it's just, you're seeing like the perfect version of, you're not seeing the other 80 hours that this person spent to do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're just looking at the 30 minutes or the 30 seconds of
Yeah.
perfection that they gleaned from all this hard work.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, of course, there's so many people, so many young kids that are coming up that are screwed up thinking that they're losers and stuff like that because they didn't get it right on the first 2 or 3 tries that they could, like, force themselves through. It's
Yeah.
like, nah, dude, you got to do, like, 75 more.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So now that we've talked about something you're bad at that you like to be better at, what is something that you're bad at that you have no intention of improving at and you're completely fine with its mediocrity?
I'm pretty bad at video games. I love them. Like I'll play hours and hours and hours of Breath of the Wild, but I have no intention of like practicing attacking a Lionel until I can perfect it for my YouTube video. Like,
The reason you're playing the game isn't because you're good at it or you even want to get better at it. It's just that you enjoy
yeah,
the way it is currently. Yeah,
yeah, and
that's great.
I belly laugh every time I get destroyed or fall off a cliff or whatever. Oh, there we go again.
I think it especially helps with that game because it's so darn beautiful.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, that one is like that game. I haven't even played it, and I can say it's one of the most beautiful games I've ever seen in my life. Full stop.
Yeah.
Just all the times I've watched a friend or seen YouTube videos of that game being played, it kind of looks like artwork that walks around. It's flabbergasting.
It's
like
dangerously flawless.
Yeah, it's like that. I think it's like the first scene in Young Sherlock Holmes from like the 90s where the stained glass knight jumps out of the stained glass window.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, whoa, it's art come to life. It's like,
Yeah.
holy crap. Yeah, you just can't believe your eyes.
I watched a comparison video of Breath of the Wild, I think versus Red Dead Redemption or something.
Mm-hmm.
And both being championed as beautiful video games. Like,
Yep.
just gorgeous. But that that Breath of the Wild in its artistic styling, like, you wanted to explore that world, but then you also wanted to go outside and explore your own world because like you celebrate this amazing open world and the exploration and everything, but it was very different from your current three-dimensional world versus the other one, which mimicked reality so well that you went outside and then you were disappointed. Like, take me back to the video game.
It has that mild uncanny valley kind of problem.
Yeah.
Like you said, because it's within our world, and so you're like comparing it to what ours looks like, and so then there's the problem of potentially, it doesn't, look good compared to ours, or it looks better compared to ours, but it's always being compared to ours. Mm-hmm. Where Zelda is just its own unique thing.
Yeah.
It's got a different color palette that is so unique and so different that you're not ever going to really compare it to our world except in situations of complete spellboundness, where you're, like if you're in Yosemite on a perfect morning, maybe you're going to be like, oh, this reminds me of Breath of the Wild. But otherwise, you're never going to be in a situation that's going to just like knock you on your ass visually like that. And so it's kind of in its own realm of what the hell.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is a perfect way of looking at it. It's fantastic. What's the most bizarre fact that you know for a fact to be true?
So, have you heard of Euler's equation? That's I'm pulling a deep dive mathematical thing out here.
And the math professor avails herself of her shroud. No, I have not heard of Euler's blah 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 blah.
Euler's equation is e to the power of pi I plus 1 equals 0. um, I'm trying to describe this. There's no visual here.
Not only is there no visual, I don't know if there could be a visual, but go on.
Okay, so this is a true equation, and we could go into all sorts of, background and stuff and prove it to you. But the bizarreness that excites me, and just you've got E. So E is this number, 2.71828, the base of the natural logarithm. It's not a number that we can put, like, on the number line, because, like, pi, it has this never-ending random assortment of decimals and stuff, right? So, like, I can put it between two numbers, but, like, I don't know the end of the number E. So you've got this weird number, and you raise it to the power of pi. So now you've got two transcendental numbers that are, like, incorporated together. And then you throw in I, which is an imaginary number, or a complex, whatever. You mix all these things together, and you get -1. Like, all of these bizarre, seemingly non-existent numbers in our real world plane, and then you get -1, which is a quantity that we do have the capacity to fully understand and measure, and, like, everybody's had -$1. And, like, I just can't, like, if I say
that's truly tremendous. Yeah, it's kind of like it's kind of like what is it? If you kids don't do this at home, I think it's like bleach and gasoline will combust.
Yeah.
It's just like, what? Like, it's not, like, kind of, it's like that kind of weird combination, except even more so because you've got three things in these really weird numbers, but, it's like, and you put them together, or, it's like, if you look, it's kind of like if you gave a designer, like, plaid stripes and hot pink, and you're like, all right, make a shirt out of this. Yeah. And then, you see him a week later at the Met Gala rocking some, like, dope, ensemble. And you're just like, huh? It's like, yeah, done the right way with the crazy enough mind, you can take anything and create something.
Yeah.
That is so awesome. Yeah. Just like three numbers that, nobody understands equaling a number that they do in conjunction with each other, no less. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And it's just kind of like, it's one of those instances where you can get bogged down in the complexities of mathematics, or you can just sit back and say, wow, that's so pretty and concise, and, like...
Yeah, you can just revel at the magnificence of the output, yeah. All right, so I want you to imagine you have a day with no obligations. There's nothing that's due tomorrow, no project on the horizon. School's out for the summer, and so are all your responsibilities. On this imaginary day, what do you do?
Gonna go walk in the woods, I think. I mean, either that, or we're whipping out a big fancy board game and playing that all day, but probably the walk in the woods.
You gonna take the doggo and the wife and go for a walk in the woods?
Oh, yeah.
I dig him.
Yeah.
All right. So what do you do now that you wish you had started sooner? Or did, I guess. It can be past tense, but what is something that you do or have done that you wish you had started sooner?
So, like, that I could have more practice
So, for
time?
example...
Yeah. Give me an example.
1 second. So, for example, for me, it'd be flossing. I didn't start flossing until I was in my 20s, I think, or something like that, most likely.
Okay.
For my friend, it was being open and like talking about his mental health and getting help for problems in that area.
Hmm.
For another friend of mine, it's working out. He didn't realize that he enjoyed it so much and felt better for it. So,
Hmm.
it can be something small, it can be something big.
Right. Okay. Okay. Probably. Like I'm probably in that working out kind of sphere, but more specifically, I wish I would have um, swam, like done more swimming um,
You cut
sooner.
out for a small second there on my end.
Oh
It
yeah,
said, I wish I could have wham sooner. I'm like, what the
nice.
hell?
That's
It's
so
like, all
good.
right. Laura's into whamming. I don't know what that means.
Yay! Oh wait, no, no, no. I got it. No, back up,
All right.
back up.
All right. So, what do you do now that you wish you had started sooner?
I wish I would have um, danced more. Um,
What kind of dancing?
like goofy wedding dancing, off the cuff, free movement. Like
Yeah, freestyle, just
yeah,
having a ball. Yeah.
yeah. I never had any level of confidence to do that. And that we were talking earlier about those things where you're looking at everybody else who seems so much more advanced than you,
Yeah.
and so you don't even want to begin. Um, like that was me all through junior high, all through high school. Like weddings were terrifying, and then as a staff member at a camp, where then I was like one of the one of the examples. You know, I was the
Mm-hmm.
counselor and stuff. We did like this camp dance on the field or whatever in the evening, and big speakers and things like that. Um, and so the release where I was the example and was able to be kind of free and do like ridiculous, goofy things for third, fourth, and fifth graders. Like that took away all of the barriers, and like I just had a blast.
Oh, that's
Um,
awesome.
and so
Yeah.
now chaperoning like junior high and high school dances as a teacher and stuff, like I'm all about looking ridiculous. I don't have to know the TikTok trendy whatever,
Yeah.
because I'm the old fogey.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. You've passed that, like the focal point of the microscope that is society,
yeah,
and so you're no longer the one that's being looked at as if you need to meet a certain mold. You're free to just be whatever you want to be, and there's no kind of judgment that can be lauded your way that has any weight.
right, right.
You know.
But
I
I missed like I also
Yeah.
in that missed the like muscle awareness and like body awareness and stuff. Like I don't know how to get
I don't get
my
your
body
groove
to do the
on.
thing. Like, so
That's
I
awesome.
end up just kind of flailing in weird ways or like jumping for the majority of a dance. And I'm having a great
That
time and getting exercise, but I'm sure I look absurd.
I mean, I feel like that's how you know you're doing it right.
Oh, that's fair. Occasionally I can get out there and like electric slide or something that kids haven't seen yet,
Yeah,
and get them to jump in with me, and like that's always just a real triumph of the day.
that's rad. So that was what you wish you had started sooner.
Hmm.
What have you done and ended that you wish you had ended sooner?
I can think of some like mental health things that I have made a lot of progress towards, but um I don't know that I've ever got like that I have yet gotten to the point of saying like it's over, I've moved past that. Like those things keep finding ways to crop up and surprise me and no,
I mean,
stay away.
it's yeah, it's a continuing battle to be sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, totally fine. If you could go back in time and tell yourself one sentence, what would it be and when would it be?
I would go back um, to college me, probably freshman year, and tell college me to study abroad um, instead of the part time job or the like mentoring program or whatever that I participated in. Those were all great things, and I ended up, having a great college experience. I'm very happy with a lot of my choices, but I wish I would have.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I would have taken advantage of some of the study abroad programs more.
Totally. And before we throw it to our first break, if you could make sure listeners on this podcast heard one song, just one, which song would it be?
So, this isn't a song that I like listen to on a road trip or anything, but every time I listen to it, it makes me giggle. Tom Lehrer has a series of hilarious songs and stuff, and "Poisoning Pigeons in the Park" is probably the thing that just tickles my funny bone the most. So probably that one.
All right, folks, check out "Poisoning Pigeons in the Park" by Tom Lehrer, and or listen to this ad break, and we'll be right back with more preposterous peeves and passionate people. Come on back. Do you ever find yourself doing a mundane activity with nothing to keep you from gouging your eyes out or sticking a pencil through one ear and out the other? Uh-huh. Well, then perhaps I could introduce you to music. Music comes in a variety of different types, flavors, and colors. Theorists say that it's the best thing to introduce to your life since food. So go out and get some and make your life just a little bit more bearable. And we're back. So Laura, down to the main event. What is your passion?
Mathematics, if that can be a passion.
Well, we're about to find out. So what is it about math that you find yourself to be passionate about? Is it the teaching of it? Is it do you just find yourself kind of going down rabbit holes and doing weird formulas or looking into mathematical principles? What is it? What aspect of math do you find yourself just drawn towards and fixated upon?
I really personally enjoy, puzzles and whether it comes in the form of an equation or an image. Here's a square inside of a circle and find the length of the diagonal or whatever. Like just kind of those puzzles and using these skills or these algorithms or whatever to try and find ways to find a solution to the puzzle. I just get excited about. I like then trying to find a new way, which I guess is maybe the somewhat related to the teacher part of me, where like, okay, so these 3 students would be okay with me showing this path, but that's not going to work for these kids, so let's find another way to come to the same solution or whatever. Um, like I get really
So
excited about, okay, we can solve this equation using the classic algorithm, but let's use a visual model, and that's always like, oh, like that's cool. Um, or
so
let's,
for you, teaching is its own mathematical equation.
I suppose, yeah, like if you're gonna be an effective teacher, you've got to be able to show um, a variety of different methodologies and meet those different learning styles and things like that for sure.
That's so cool. So, do you know when you got started or interested or introduced to math where it really started to, kind of formulate and like become this, I don't want to say obsession, but become this fixation that would, become such a major part of your life?
I am one of those privileged kids that grew up in a very educated household. Um, and like my mom and dad both really liked math and would like go over my math homework with me, double multiplication or whatever, and they'd check my work, and then like we'd go and redo the problems that I had missed, or they'd do flashcards with me. So like I built fundamental skills very early, which I think gave me a certain level of ability to just kind of jump in at the higher tiers, and when things got difficult I already had the fundamentals like in the bag, in ways that my peers and stuff maybe didn't.
So, this isn't something that you started off excelling at, it sounds like. I mean, it sounds like you did well, but like with the way you're talking about, your parents, you're sitting down with your parents, them helping you with the problems, seeing where you went wrong and like fixing it. It sounds like you weren't some like, you know, uh, TV level savant where you're just like kind of like drawing all over a whiteboard and like blowing everybody's mind. You started off in a very, kind of, I don't want to say, I mean, like normal
Yeah,
rudimentary way of, you got most of them right, but some of them wrong, and you had to learn things.
yeah, oh absolutely, no, and and I think in like elementary school maybe I saw myself as like one of the smartest kids in class, but there were always kids who were faster than me during around the world and stuff, and
Oh, around the world.
right.
Now you're taking me back. For those of you that don't know, Laura, would you please explain around the world and take us both back in time to when we laced up our own shoes and put backpacks on at the beginning of the day?
Right, and put our pog collection in there.
Oh, I wasn't that cool. I didn't have pogs.
Oh man, you missed
I know.
out.
I missed out. I was not the cool kid like you. All right, so take our listeners back and describe around the world if you would please.
So my memory of around the world, and maybe around the world is like a regional thing,
Mm-hmm.
but was you had your all of your students in their desks, and then you had the kid, who would like stand next to, like there was a predefined route through the classroom. And
Mm-hmm.
so your kid would stand next to a kid who was sitting in a desk. And the teacher would do rapid fire math facts like multiplication or addition or subtraction or whatever. And it was, whoever was fastest between those two got to move to the next desk in the route. And so it was just like a speed game, and your objective was to be the kid who could beat every other kid, and make it
Yeah.
all the way around the room. You know, I
And if
really
you
enjoyed it, but I'm sure that for students who struggled, it was like public shaming.
Oh yeah, it's something that probably couldn't exist in like the circumstances of today, but maybe I don't know. So the kid, if they won, moved to the next desk, right? So there was
Yeah.
like a physical advancement.
Yeah.
So, that was different. Ours was everybody stood up, and I think it went in pairs. It went to like whoever was next to you, and it was 1v1, and I think it was almost always flashcards. I remember doing it specifically in fourth grade. Hold a flashcard, answer. The person who answered fastest stayed up. The person who lost went down, and it went to the next pair, and then it would loop back around. And so you'd be left like doing your 1v1s would, instead of being the guy next to you, would be the person across the room from you potentially. And at the end, it would be the last two students kind of standing. Maybe more like a little bit more like Highlander, I guess, but same kind of principle of just pitting classmates against each other and mathematic and showing like having that moment of the biggest nerds standing alone in all their glory.
Yeah, yeah.
Were you a consummate winner when it came to Around the World?
I had to have been. I
Flaunt
don't
that nerd flag.
yeah.
Don't hide it under a bushel basket.
I mean, like that's just kind of my memory is that all the way through like elementary school and junior high that I was one of the smart math kids, and took a lot of pride in that. And I think maybe in late high school I started to realize like that there were smart math kids and then like that I probably needed to put a little bit more effort in. Kind of that you put in all of this work and effort, but you can't just stop and write it, I think
you can once you're 80, right? But like
sure.
like there's so much math to be known and to like kind of figure out that effectively it is like the sea in that it is not endless, but it might as well be for like the human lifespan.
Yeah. When I got to college, like then I was just like decimated. Like I went from being top kid to being the C kid, And I was like, oh, like people know stuff here,
Did that make you kind of shrink in your efforts and not lose interest, but diminish your energy towards pushing further in that? Or did that increase your vigor for jumping further into the sea that is mathematics?
I think that at that point, I really started to kind of define kind of my personal passions for also like working with other people. And whether it was like a subconscious or a fully conscious decision, I started to notice that to be exceptional at math meant that I was going to need to give up movie nights with buddies or like going for midnight donut runs and things like that, which I also really treasured. And high school mathematics, like getting to first or second year calculus, that was kind of enough for me. Like I could appreciate abstract algebra and non-Euclidean geometry, and like that stuff was all super fascinating, but it wasn't necessarily like inspiring to where I wanted to discover the next big theorem or prove that thing. Like I wanted to be with people. So,
and that's something that I think. And pause you for a second here.
Yeah.
That's something that I think is underappreciated in too much of our society, the way we look at excellence, is we think that, oh, if you're good, you're going to continue down the line and there's nothing that's going to stop you. You know, if you're good at something, it's going to become. It's kind of like the way people look at, and especially myself, would kind of look at certain hobbies like, well, if you're good at this, it's going to become your occupation. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean it has to become your occupation. And just because you're good in a field doesn't mean that you have to be at its pinnacle.
Right.
Like, to have a house stand, you need not only do you need the apex of the roof, but you also need the foundation. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, mathematics needs all kinds of people, whether they're good at, you know, 6th grade algebra, or if they're good at, you know, that freaking that weird science or that weird mathematics that you like see in movies where they're just like going nuts with a piece of chalk on a whiteboard and basically writing in like alien languages. I mean, like it you need the whole entire gamut. So you found your area that you really enjoyed and found bliss in, it sounds like, with, you know, calculus and
algebras and geometries. Like I was really content with high school mathematics. You know, like that was enough.
When did you realize that you wanted to be a high school mathematics teacher? Was it the field that kind of, like, was it like, oh, I like this math, what can I do with it? Oh, I can teach? Or was it, you know, I like this math and I like trying to tell it to other people? What was it about it that kind of led you towards doing that in that venue?
Probably closer to the second one. Like, I figured out in high school that tutoring paid a lot better than babysitting for a lot less effort. Like,
why clean diapers when you can clean up their theorems?
That's right. Well, and for so many parents and junior hires and stuff, like, tutoring really came down to like a kid needing somebody to sit with them, and kind of a babysitting idea. Like they just needed somebody to get them started and see them through to the conclusion. Maybe I would help on a problem, and then they could be like, "Oh yeah, I remember." And I'm like, "Mom, Dad, you could do this. You could just sit here."
Yeah, that's all you have to do.
Meanwhile, I'll collect $20 for sitting for an hour with your kid. Sure. Yeah. That's fine.
Sign me up. And it's also, I mean, like, a lot more gratifying, too, than, you know, you watched a movie with a kid. Yeah. As much as that is easier, the gratification of, you know, even if you're sitting there and you only help them solve one problem, seeing the difference when you leave.
Well, and then I didn't have to put the kid to bed. I didn't have to feed the kid mac and cheese. Like, I got up and walked away.
That's the worst, feeding a mac and cheese. My God.
So I did the tutoring thing. And then in college, I ended up, through some weird discrete channel, getting like a scholarship for working in the math tutoring center, like a couple times a week or whatever. And it was just like, it just kept being reinforced, this idea that I had a natural skill for, I don't know if it was explaining things that I did well, or if I was just personable, and so many skilled mathematicians are not personable, or like whatever it was reinforced over and over again that I had an ability to make people feel comfortable with doing math.
Yeah. That's kind of one of those things that I love about high ends of most fields. That is kind of great. And like another one of those things of like the kind of house metaphor I talked about earlier is, well, you might not be able to do what some Nobel laureate, mathematician can do, and maybe not even like understand it because it's like so insanely big.
Yeah.
You also could teach somebody your highest end, understanding of math to somebody else, where that guy couldn't teach somebody addition
Right.
because they don't have that skill set. And so it's kind of fascinating to look in a field that like and see that there's more than just your level of knowledge. There's also your level of explaining it to people. There's your level of, there's so many different facets to look at in this world where so many people like kind of just look at one thing and then grade from 1 to 10, which is best, which is worst. And that's like not the way things are. And like this is like such a perfect example of it, it's like, yeah, like this guy might know so much more than you, but he couldn't teach it to a rat.
Right.
Given a million years and their language. Like that's something that he does not possess, is that ability. And that is something that you noticed early on, fostered, and have been gifted with and have used thusly.
Right.
Which is just beautiful.
Yeah. So I guess that like going back to your question of like when or what was the catalyst or whatever that kind of led me to being a high school math teacher. I just was.
It was your destiny.
I mean,
do you think you would love match? Do you think you would love math as much as you do if teaching wasn't a thing? I don't know how that would be possible, but let's say like teaching was only done by you're in the future. Like you're reincarnated 1,000 years from now. All teaching is done by computers, right. So that's not an option for you anymore. But you still fall in love with math, or in school. Is that something? Would you pursue a different aspect of mathematics, or is teaching so much of what is the bliss for you that like they're inseparable?
There's a couple of YouTubers out there who claim to be recreational mathematicians.
That's awesome. What a time we live in.
And like they do like origami, or they do like oh look, all of these pencils are hexagons when I hold it this way. I wonder what I can build that has hexagonal symmetry and things. And like there's a part of mathematics that is very closely tied to like arts and and puzzles, and
yeah, it's like, what is it, the side of your brain that does math is the same side that does like art and music, I think it is. Like those are all the same like type of brain. Like, so the people that you find that are good at math usually are good at like musical aspects or other artistic aspects, generally speaking.
Yeah, so I think that I could be very content to do those kinds of things, to work Sudoku puzzles for days on end, or those little tavern peg puzzles or whatever that you see. Yeah.
That's awesome. So what would it take for you to lose interest in mathematics? Is there a thing that could be discovered about math or about the kind of the people that made math? Like if you found out, who's your favorite mathematician, for instance?
I mean, I don't know. There are too many, man.
All right, let's say your favorite mathematician.
Yeah.
Teddy Ruxpin is what we're going to call him in the meantime.
That works.
Yeah, totally. That's the name of a mathematician. So you find out that your favorite mathematician, Teddy Ruxpin, has actually been, a lascivious man his whole entire life, has been, just disgustingly depraved when it came to his, personal time and like what he did. Not only that, he cheated on his taxes. He,
Okay,
was
okay.
involved in multiple hit and runs. He was just this awful person. Does that change your love of math, or is that devoid of like a tenant creator who you thought was amazing?
I can see the analogy that you're trying to make, and it's so hard for me because the history of mathematics and everything is from so many different regions and so many different people, and there are good people who did mathematics and made mathematics accessible to the masses during this pandemic, and then there are drug addicts who sat in their attics to develop theorems and ignored all of humanity around them, so like the history of mathematics is rife with good and evil.
So what you're saying is Teddy Ruxpin's depravity is irrelevant to your love of mathematics.
I think I am saying that. Yeah. Teddy Ruxpin did not create all of mathematics in its entirety, so
All right. So, what's the biggest conception about mathematics by the wider world? Is there anything like that you see constantly that is like, people look at incorrectly or just have gotten a false notion, whether it be from media, bad teachers, or other dumb kids in their class who spin a good yarn?
yeah. The notion that like people are inherently bad at math has like just decimated a lot of forward progress or whatever. I think specifically in like the demographic that I work with, like students and teenagers and stuff.
Yeah, that idea that you need to immediately get it as opposed to like, learn it from the ground up and kind of figure it out and like in a tough way. Yeah.
And it's so like parents do it.
Oh, wow.
Like, oh, well, Johnny really struggles with math. I'm not really good at math, and we're not math people or whatever. Like that.
Yeah, they say it like it's a genetic default.
Yeah.
Where like it's like this. Yeah, we're not math people. It's some people don't eat milk. Some people don't eat meat. We just don't do math.
Right.
It's like this,
no, like, but that
like
is.
this.
It's exact, and it's just like being permissible of like yeah.
Yeah, like this whole idea of being permissible of failure
Yeah.
is definitely an idea that is like gone by the wayside. People think you like need to be good or show a knack right off the bat, and obviously that helps. Being good at something off the bat doesn't hurt,
No.
but it isn't like required. Like there's this idea that I found out about this recently that certain people are good singers and other people aren't. Actually, it's been proven, like scientifically through multiple studies and multiple tests, that anybody can sing given the right amount. Like obviously certain people show a knack for it. There are certain qualities. I think vocal ranges are one that can't be taught. I think that's like a natural inherent thing from my understanding.
There's a genetic
there's a genetic predisposition. Like I think
cords
Freddie
are a certain length.
Yeah, I think like Freddie Mercury is like one of the people that had like a 3-octave range, and he's like there's like not that many of them. But when it comes to singing, like I think like an octave or an octave and a half or whatever the normal human range is, that can be taught. That is something that, given enough time and enough wherewithal and the right teacher, anybody can learn that. That is not something that is only for a certain group. It's for everybody. You just have to want it and get the training if you need it or whatever. And so, it's the same thing with like math or, especially other like sciences or something that is like so, one of the beautiful things about math, I think, and let me know if you feel the same, is that it's like this kind of until you get to the higher echelon that I don't know jack diddly about, is it's empirical. It's not something that, oh, if you look at it this way, if you look at it that way, it's like, no, 2 plus 2 always equals 4.
Mm-hmm.
And like the lower middling levels of math and stuff like that. And so that's something that you can just teach everyone. Where like, as opposed to teaching like fiction writing, it's like then it gets so much into this artistic pleasure where there's no right and there's no wrong. There's like intent and perspective and all this gobbledygook that is so hard to learn because it's so fluid.
Right.
Where math is just this rigid, structured, like, no, these are always going to do this. And it's kind of, for me, it's one of the beauties of it in this world that we live in where there's so much, I can see it from this way, I can see it from that way. It's like, no. 4 times 3 is always 12. Like, and there's this kind of beautiful, like, security blanket for, like, my brain when it comes to, like, looking at that. And it's kind of gorgeous in that way. And also, you know, a lot easier to teach compared to, like, other, like, you know, writing and stuff like that, where it's just like, you know, there's hard and fast rules. Yeah, exactly. It's a very objective, you know, kind of subject matter. It's kind of beautiful in that way.
It's an interesting notion that math is this objective subject, and it's got these this progression. You know, first you learn to add, then you learn to multiply, like so on and so forth, and you really do need to learn to multiply before you learn to divide. You know, or if you skip over that, you're gonna be you're gonna be in a world of hurt and all of that, which I think some of the other disciplines, the humanities or whatever, like you can skip. You know, you can skip the poetry unit. That's okay. You're not gonna suffer.
You're not gonna. Yeah, your writing isn't gonna suffer because you forgot, like you didn't go to the poetry summit or whatever like that. Like you'll be fine. You're just not gonna be a poet probably.
But on the flip side of that, like it also doesn't necessarily have a universality to it either. Like some people will make the claim that like math is the universal language, and I suppose at like an arithmetic level, like sure, like all cultures 2 plus 2 is 4, but and maybe it's because of the holes and stuff that get that students skip over or whatever in our American education system, but like different methodologies later on and stuff can really what am I trying to say? Really like hinder the communication piece, and like I'll get a kid in pre-calculus and I'm explaining like a procedure, but they don't know what a coefficient is, and I'm using coefficient to explain that, and or trigonometric ratio or whatever, and they've missed out on the fluency piece of the language, and then suddenly like they don't really know what's going on anymore.
I actually personally experienced that because when I was growing up, I stuck to, this is kind of interesting, is our stories are different, then they're the same, and then they're different again. So I started off math way above everybody else. I don't know why I got it, but I got it when I was little. There's this story that my mom comes to pick me up after preschool or first grade or something like that, really early on. I'm like in daycare or whatever after school because she was a teacher and I went to the same school. So gets done with the meeting, fixes her class, and comes to get me. And I'm sitting on the floor in a corner by myself. And my mom is initially worried and walks up to the teacher and goes, "Why is he over there by himself? Did he do something wrong?" And they're like, "Oh no, he's been over there by himself intentionally for like an hour and a half." And they're like, she goes, what? And they're like, I don't know. He seemed fine. He was like happy doing his thing. So we just like let him, do whatever. And she walks over and there was a stack of little math books, like little,
Yes.
like do the math problem thing. And I'm just like burning through them, just like answering them and just
I
having a
love it.
ball.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it was figured out pretty early on that I like kind of gravitated towards math and really enjoyed math. And so like I was 1 to 2 years ahead through almost all of grade school into junior high. And then there was this point, and I think it's actually it started in grade school where the problem was where I didn't actually learn how to divide correctly. I learned how to do multiplication and guess and do it enough times quickly in my head to get the right answer, but I didn't
Okay.
actually know how to divide.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
it's like 14 divided by 2. I'd be like, all right, 8 times 2 is 16. That's too high. 6 times 12, or 6 times 2 is 12. Okay, that doesn't work. So it must be 7. And I would do that like in a split second, and which, worked
Yeah.
when it was shorthand. But when it started to get bigger and bigger and you need to do it in like weird and complex ways with like algebra and trigonometry and stuff like that, I was like, huh? And I just got lost. And that's like when it fell off for me. Or as opposed to, you started off, you were doing it, you liked it, but you were suffering. Your parents helped teach you and you kept going, but in this like linear pattern where you had to learn and you had to like appreciate those things,
Yeah.
and you understood it in a fundamental way. I had progressed in this way where I didn't have to learn a couple of the fundamentals, and like you said, at a certain point that comes back and you're just screwed.
Yeah.
And so like you can't miss something. And it was kind of fascinating. You talk about that and be like, oh, I totally know what you mean.
Yeah. Well, and it's like I guess maybe it's kind of like learning a foreign language or whatever. Like if your parents are bilingual and you're like constantly engaged in this second language or whatever, and you just like develop fluency, and it's like a part of you to where you don't even realize that, oh, you don't know the academic term for whatever, but you can get by and you can have a conversation with anybody or whatever.
Yeah.
You know.
It kind of feels like it's being a mechanic on a car, and I wasn't there for carburetor day. And so now when I'm trying to put a car together, it's like it's not going to run. I'm like, well, why not? It's like, well, you don't have this very large important component in the car.
Yeah.
But, that's fascinating. So, what is your favorite non-obvious aspect about mathematics?
Non-obvious aspect.
Is there something that the wider world doesn't realize about math or doesn't appreciate about math, or is that's generally not shown about mathematics as a general whole or in a certain specific kind of way that you really find neat or kind of underappreciated?
I think that the wider world is I don't want to cast judgment, but I think that the wider world is somewhat flippant on how integral mathematics is in music. Like, I don't know that I've met anybody who hasn't heard the statement that music is math or that math is involved in music and like says, oh yeah, I've heard this. But like down to measuring sound waves, and harmonies are these intersections of these sinusoidal curves and things like this that we can model on a graphing calculator that this piece of music is expected to sound good because of
oh, wild.
Or the lengths of strings on instruments being like, you cut the string in half and now it's an octave higher. You cut it in half again, now it's an octave higher than that. And like when we say that music is math, I don't.
It's very literal. It's not this like comparative notion.
Mm-hmm.
It is this very definite fact.
Yeah. And like
that is awesome.
And just like even if we take away harmony and melody, and like if we strip it down to rhythm only, like just that rhythm could be divided and subdivided, and that you could have polyrhythms where you have 7 over 11 or whatever, and that you could use mathematics to to this degree of precision or whatever, like that. I'm going back to YouTube again. There's a YouTuber, Adam Neely, who just does some phenomenal mathematical deconstructions of different rhythms and stuff. And that, like, you've got European rhythms that are very, 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4, and like kind of Western rhythms, but then you can put that with some rhythms of different cultures that use different mathematical, transitions, and like base 5 or whatever. It's crazy.
That's so rad. Yeah. It brings about a terrifying thought that robots will be able to create perfect music, but I'm going to leave that for a different kind of
there you go.
a different podcast and a different terrifying thought.
And
all right, now
but then there's also the piece where like music and musical expression or whatever, like, yes, we have all of these metrics and we can have all of these mathematical components to it, but there still remains artistry, and there still remains expression.
I mean, you can just look at freeform jazz, and that kind of that terrifying idea just loses all weight when you if you look at somebody playing like a jazz flute and like scatting. It's like that, a computer's never going to be able to figure out how to scat, and when it does, humans just won't exist. We'll be completely pointless. It's going to become the Matrix in about a hot minute when they figure out how to scat.
For sure.
That's the turning point. So now that we have gone over in great, illustrious, and hilarious detail your love of mathematics, what is your preposterous peeve?
So board games. I love board games. I've got a fair few investments on my shelf.
As somebody who has crashed on her couch, I can attest to this. and I believe she is underselling it quite a lot.
Since the pandemic, we saw it our duty to support local businesses, and
yes, that's why.
But by golly, like, I'm totally happy to throw down $80 into a high quality board game that has been championed on Board Game Geek and all of this. But if I'm dropping $80 on your game, the least you could do is like make the inside of that box like useful. Or like little pockets for my pieces or stuff. Like all these game companies that use this universal insert that works for all of their games, and then the inside of my game looks like trash. And the pieces are falling out everywhere, and I've got these plastic bags and stuff. Like, why can't these games, like, why can't these board games,
why can't they get their shit together and make a box that is the box?
Or they stick in this little cardboard insert that uses up half of the box. Well, like, if the box is going to be filled with air for like 80% of the box, give me a smaller box.
Yeah, just reduce the size of the box,
and then I can buy more boxes to fit in my shelf. I don't need your and they're all different sizes, and they don't, like, the aesthetic of my board game closet is maddening. It's all this wasted space.
The mathematician part of your brain is going, there's so much better use of space if they had just...
Yeah. I mean...
So can I extrapolate from this that you are a very large fan of Tetris?
Oh. Sir.
You don't even know. So,
Yes.
so when you and your wife go on long trips, you're the one that packs the car. Is that
Uh,
a fair assessment to make?
yes, yes. Well, she tries.
And then you pat her on the back and you go, "That's sweet," and then you just get the fuck out
Yeah.
of my way. That's awesome. So, in the perfect universe, all game boxes are the same size
Yes.
or a multiplication of the same size.
Oh yeah,
Like,
that would be cool. Yeah.
yeah, like a 4 inch by 4 inch or a 16 by 16 inch is acceptable, right? Because then like you can like
Modulate and like
yeah you
yeah.
can modulate and stack up.
Oh, for
Okay.
sure. Yeah, I'd be okay with that.
It's all these 5 by 17s and 3 by 9s.
It's just yes, I agree. Yep. Or like yeah.
You're like a Nazi when it comes to box sizing. It's just like 9. They all fit in the right size.
Yes.
It's a superior box race, basically.
We did invest in a Kickstarter that was one of these Bitbox one of these Kickstart companies that tried to solve this problem for us, where you just empty all of the components out of the box and repackage into their little modular thing. And it was like it's just incredible. We fit like, what does our box have? It has something like 20 games, and all of the components for those 20 games contained in like one suitcase style box.
You found your fix for your problem, basically. That's awesome.
Yes. But now that box doesn't match the other box.
That's awesome.
Well, and there's a certain degree of like some of these boxes are really pretty, and I do like them. And when I see Azul or Agricola or whatever, I look at that and say, "Oh, I'd like to play that game today." But when I open the box and it's just a mess of components, I just get so sad.
That's fucking great. All right, and with that hilarious note, we're gonna throw it to our second and last commercial break, and when we come back, we'll have the lightning round. So stick around. Having trouble staying awake?
Oh, yeah.
Wish you'd followed your dream so you had the give a crap necessary to meet your deadlines?
Oh, definitely.
Are you likely to be fired the second another warm body walks through that door and asks your boss for an application?
Probably.
Would you prefer to keep this shit sack of a job instead of explaining to Susan that you've been fired?
I mean, I guess.
Well then, let me introduce you to caffeine. Caffeine is a highly addictive substance that'll keep you jittery and energized to do any fucking stupid task for hours.
That sounds like drugs.
It is!
Aren't drugs illegal?
Not this one. So next time you feel like sitting on the sidewalk instead of at your desk, reach for a caffeine.
Wait, you didn't tell me where I can buy it.
'Cause it's mother-loving everywhere, you blind Neanderthal. Welcome back and thank you for returning, folks. And Laura, are you ready for the lightning round?
Sure. Come at me.
All right. All right. Did you ever cheat on a test in school?
I'm going to say yes. I'm going to go with yes.
Lions, tigers, or bears?
Tigers.
Favorite dollar menu item?
Burrito.
Caffeine or alcohol?
Caffeine.
Are hot dog sandwiches?
No.
Would you rather step on a Lego shoeless or a cow pie in new shoes late for a date?
Ooh. Lego.
Bow tie or suspenders?
Suspenders.
First rated R movie you saw?
The Matrix?
Throw hands or talk shit?
Throw hands.
Biggest celebrity crush?
Oh, what's her name? She plays Hermione Granger.
Wow,
Can
Emma
I-
Watson.
There you go. Emma Watson.
Yeah. Is there a god?
Yes.
Neapolitan or Spumoni?
Spumoni.
Are we alone in the universe?
No.
Pineapple on pizza or fist fight?
Pineapple on pizza.
What or how much was the most expensive meal you've ever had?
It was a fish dinner on the coast.
If you had the power to see the future but couldn't change it, would you use it?
No.
Red or blue?
Blue.
For $500,000, how long would you give up your passion?
Oh. A week?
Wow. Shakira's voice in Danny DeVito's body or Danny DeVito's voice in Shakira's body?
Shakira's voice.
In Danny DeVito's body?
Yes.
Wine or beer?
Cider?
All right. And what yes or no lightning round question would you like to ask me and have added to future lightning round questions?
Over or under?
Ooh. Over.
Okay.
That's a fun one.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks again, Laura. Anything you want to plug, recommend, places people could find you, your content?
No.
No movies you've watched recently, no books you've read that you'd recommend, no games that you're loving currently?
Oh, okay.
Those are also things you can plug.
Okay. I am currently working through. I'll face the computer. I'm currently working through a legacy game called Charterstone with my wife and colleague from work. It's pretty solid. It's got fantastic artwork and it's just a treat.
This is a board game?
This
or
is a
an online
board game. A board game comes in a white box. Charterstone.
Oh, cool. Check it out, folks. Charterstone. And thank you, everybody listening at home or wherever you found the time to appreciate this. And if you want to listen to more, you can find more episodes put out every week on SoundCloud or YouTube at Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Podcast. I believe on YouTube it's all one gigantic word because I'm good at branding. And remember, folks, we only get to live one life. So do your best, live with no regrets, and love everybody that you can as best you can. Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.